You've probably heard the story about how Nigerian head of state General Sani Abacha died. It's a tale that's been told for years. But what if I told you that the story everyone knows might be completely wrong? We're going to dig into what the eyewitnesses say really happened. So, was it really that simple? A poisoned apple from a mysterious woman, something almost out of a fairy tale? Or was it something much darker? A calculated political hit hiding in plain sight? That is the question at the heart of all this, and the answer might surprise you.
I mean, let's be real, the story is incredibly memorable. On the night of June 8th, 1998, General Abacha is supposedly with some female companions. He eats an apple, and then he dies. It's scandalous, it's simple, and it's easy to repeat. And that's exactly why it's dominated the conversation for decades.
Okay, but now let's bring in the one person who can challenge that whole narrative. Major Hamza al-Mustafa. This isn't some distant source. This was Abacha's chief security officer. He was one of the last people to see the general alive and literally the first person to find him when things went wrong. His testimony, well, it changes everything.
So let's just put it out there, side by side. On one hand, you have the legend, the poisoned apple. Simple. On the other hand, you have the insider account from al-Mustafa, which points to a sudden, catastrophic health collapse that actually started hours earlier, right after a suspicious handshake with a foreign security official. We're talking two completely different worlds here, and the details of what al-Mustafa saw, they're just incredible. To really understand what might have happened, we have to forget the rumors for a second and look at the timeline. This is the minute-by-minute breakdown of the general's last hours, straight from the man who was there. So everything seems to kick off on June 7th with this handshake that al-Mustafa immediately flags as off. By the next evening, Abacha is clearly unwell, enough to need a doctor to give him an injection. But then, and this is the weird part, he seems to rally. By 9 p.m., he's described as bouncing, even taking visitors late into the night. The very last person to see him is a close friend, General Jeremiah Useni, who leaves at 3:35 in the morning. A little over an hour later, at 5 a.m., everything falls apart.
Can you imagine that? It's 5 in the morning, you're the chief security officer, and guards are frantically banging on your door. Al-Mustafa's mind didn't go to a medical issue. His training instantly kicked in, and his first thought was, this is it. It's a coup.
So he races over to Abacha's guest house, expecting to find soldiers, an attack, something. But he doesn't. He finds the head of state in his bed, in extreme distress, gasping for breath. In an instant, the situation flips from a potential military coup to a desperate race to save the general's life.
Now get this. Even in this absolute life-or-death moment, the protocol was so rigid that al-Mustafa couldn't just grab him. He had to formally ask for permission to even touch the head of state, shouting to try and get a response that never came. It just shows you the insane formality and the sheer panic of those final moments. The personal doctor, Dr. Wali, gets there unbelievably fast. We're talking just 8 minutes. He tries a last-ditch effort administering 2 injections, one straight to the heart and another to the neck. But it was no use. The medicine did nothing. The general was already cold. And that's when the doctor said the words, the head of state was dead. Nothing more could be done. In that single moment, Nigeria no longer had a leader, and al-Mustafa was standing at the epicenter of a massive, dangerous power vacuum.
Okay, so the medical emergency is over, but honestly, the political crisis, the real chaos, was just getting started. What happened in the next few hours in the presidential villa would decide the fate of the entire country. Think about it. How do you handle this? You can't just announce that Abacha is dead. It would spark absolute mayhem. So al-Mustafa did something incredibly clever. He used special comms to call all the top military chiefs for a 9 a.m. meeting with Abacha, a meeting he knew would never, ever happen. It was a bluff, and it bought him precious time. So once all the top brass are gathered and the news is finally broken in private, the power plays begin immediately. First up is a service chief, General Bamai, who basically says, okay, I should be in charge now. Then, a much scarier idea comes from some junior officers who suggest a full-on violent coup to just finish all the senior guys. The tension in that room must have been insane. Thankfully, some elder generals stepped in, urged against any bloodshed, and guided everyone toward a more stable option. Back the most senior officer there, who happened to be General Useni. But just when it seems like they have a plan, there's one final, shocking twist. General Bamai, the very same guy who wanted the top job himself, plants a seed of poison. He turns to the group and asks if it's occurred to them that Usaini, the last man with Abacha, might be the one who poisoned him. And just like that, their chosen successor is now their #1 suspect.
So, you see, this insider account doesn't really solve the mystery of General Abacha's death. What it does is completely dismantle the old myth and replace it with questions that are way more complicated and honestly way more disturbing. So, if we throw out the poisoned apple story, what are we left with? Was it some kind of sophisticated poison delivered through a handshake, just like al-Mustafa suspected? Or was it an inside job set up by someone close to him who had everything to gain? The only person who really knows the truth is gone. And that leaves all of us to wonder, what really happened on that night?